Hi, I wish you a wonderful day. If you didn't subscribe to my channel, please do so now. Um, Today, 23rd of January 2023, I would like to answer a question I've been asking myself. Uh, were Germany and United Nations looking for a war between Mali and Ivory Coast in that affair in which 49 Ivorian soldiers were arrested in Mali and judged and finally freed by the Mali authorities. I was reading an article in, on RFI. This is the Radio France Internationale uh, that you listen to. Well, the article was this Ivorians saying that the Ivorian soldiers arrested in Mali were part of the UN mission. The UN is the United Nations, as I think you know. Well, in the article, I could find that there were a convention, or we can say a contract between Ivory Coast and Mali. And this convention was named MOU, if you like, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Ivory Coast and the United Nations. And according to that contract, Ivory Coast would provide soldiers that will go to work with the German soldiers of MINUSMA in Mali. MINUSMA stands for United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali. So, dealing with the contract, 7 different groups of Ivorian soldiers have replaced each other to work with the German or for the German soldiers contingent in MINUSMA. They are NSE soldiers, which means National Support Element. So, before the contingent of 49 soldiers arrested in Mali, there were 7 others that went there. And those 7 contingents were celebrated and decorated by the commandment of the United Nations Force itself. You can simply understand this that they were part of the German soldiers they were working with, so they were part of the United Nations soldiers. But when the 8th contingent of 49 soldiers arrives in Mali and is arrested, first, the United Nations mission recognized them as part of the soldiers, and they were called to work with them with the German soldiers of MINUSMA. Surprisingly, 2 days later, on January 11th, 2022, the spokesperson of the United Nations expresses something different. Uh, he did not recognize them, or he did not continue to recognize them. And my question is why? The authorities of German or of Germany also kept quiet. And I'm asking myself, why? Is it because of the administrative irregularities? I do think that those administrative irregularities problems were those kind of simple problems that they could have solved. But unfortunately, none of them took responsibilities, neither United Nations or nor the Germans. This has created serious problem between Ivory Coast and Mali. The Ivorian soldiers were arrested, put in jail, and still Germany was keeping quiet, and the United Nations would not recognize them while they were in Mali to work with them. And this crisis between Mali and Ivory Coast, as I'm saying, could have created a war between those two nations. So, my question, why did the United Nations keep quiet? Why did the German authorities keep quiet? What were they looking for between Ivory Coast and Mali? Well, were they looking for war between Ivory Coast and Mali? As in Ivory Coast, there were some people who were asking to wage war against Mali in order to liberate their soldiers. And still, the United Nations and the Germans kept quiet. Well, to answer that question, I do believe that we need to understand something. The way the world is organized has been built by the Europeans since they were what we have called, or we calling, the Roman Empire. And if you look at Germany, Germany is a country of Europe that profits from the way the world is organized. The United Nations is one of the organizations that has been put on feet to maintain the world order as Europe has built it. And in Mali, you have Assimi Goïta. Assimi Goïta is the president of Mali who does not fully place on the side of Europe. So, in fact, they do not like him. They do not like that he has called for Russia uh, to back them in the military sides. And on the other side, in Ivory Coast, you have Alassane Ouattara. Alassane Ouattara is the president of Ivory Coast. He is a president who is fully playing on the side of Europe. He likes France, so he likes Europe. France likes him, so Europe likes him. So in that crisis, there could have been a war between Mali and Ivory Coast, a war that would have been a war between Russia and the Europeans. And one of the objective of that war would have been to get rid of Assimi Goïta, president of Mali. as Assimi Goïta would have to fight against the terrorists in his country and against the Ivorian soldiers on the other side. Well, this is a way of seeing it. But had there have been a war, Ivory Coast would have suffered too, because I can think that it is not with ease that President Alassane Ouattara is governing in Ivory Coast. There are people who do not like him, but who cannot say it because they are in some situations where they have to keep quiet. So he would have some problems too. All these things I'm saying explains why Germany and the United Nations kept quiet. To my viewpoint, they would have liked to see those two countries fight. It was to their benefit, or it would have been to their profit. You see, sometimes in war, and many times, people fight, they become poorer and poorer. Could have happened to Ivory Coast, or it could have happened in Mali. But the president of both countries, well, have been, I think, intelligent enough not to engage into a war. Well, in many wars, when people fight, you see that some other people who are vulnerable sometimes die, but many of them have to run out of their country. Uh, these are called refugees. We thank God that those two countries did not go into fighting, did not wage war, and they didn't have all those refugees uh, looking for better places or better environment in some other countries. They would have import themselves and very probably import the other countries. So, by not fighting, they did not add additional poverty to what they were already suffering. And you also know that many times when there are war in Africa, it is that the good raw materials in those countries where people are fighting. And if you look to Mali or into Ivory Coast, you will find that they have some materials that the Europeans really want or would have liked to buy at very low cost because those countries would have been fighting and very probably they would have been looking for money to wage the war they were fighting for. All that did not uh, happen, and the soldiers, the Ivorian soldiers, the 49 Ivorian soldiers, were liberated. We thank God on this. I'm going to stop here and say that I wish you a wonderful day. If you didn't subscribe to my channel, please do so for other videos. Thank you for your time. God bless you.